Welcome to We've Got a Country to Save, brought to you by Immun'Âge and Freedom Chat. Freedom Chat is true end-to-end encryption, no storage of messages on the server, and no commercial use of user data. Later on, we're going to talk to you about how had they used Freedom Chat rather than Signal, Signalgate never would have happened. Speak freely and message privately. Download the Freedom Chat app today and subscribe to my Freedom Chat channel at Larry Elder for exclusive posts and never-before-seen content. We also thank Impactful Pictures, Old Glory Bank, Patriot Mobile, MyPillow, and AmFed Coin and Bullion. Be sure to like and subscribe to our podcast. Make sure to follow and subscribe to my channel on whatever platform you are using, whether X, YouTube, Facebook, or Rumble. Please patronize our sponsors so we can keep bringing you these incredible videos. And if you don't patronize our sponsors, well,
I can change that in a hurry.
We know where you live. Do we really want to make Canada our 51st state?
President, you have said that Canada should become the 51st state. Were you joking?
No. Well, I still believe that, but you know, it takes two to tango, right? But no, I do. I mean, I believe it would be a massive tax cut for the Canadian citizens. You get free military, you get tremendous medical cares and other things. There would be a lot of advantages, but it would be a massive tax cut. And it's also a beautiful, you know, as a real estate developer, you know, I'm a real estate developer at heart. When you get rid of that artificially drawn line, somebody drew that line many years ago with like a ruler, just a straight line right across the top of the country. When you look at that beautiful formation when it's together, I'm a very artistic person, but when I looked at that beauty, I said, that's the way it was meant to be. But, you know, I do feel it's much better for Canada. But we're not going to be discussing that unless somebody wants to discuss it. I think that there are tremendous benefits to the Canadian citizens, tremendously lower taxes, free military, which honestly we give you essentially anyway because we're protecting Canada if you ever had a problem. But I think it would really be a wonderful marriage because it's two places that get along very well. They like each other a lot.
Apart from dragging this huge welfare state into our union, it would mean 2 more Democrat senators, about 53 more House seats, and based on the percentage of liberals in the Canadian Parliament, this means about 34 more Democrat House members. If you want Speaker Hakeem Jeffries, have at it. So much for the MAGA agenda. It would mean constant impeachments and constant investigation by various committee chairs. Assuming Trump is serious as opposed to just taking a jab at the former Prime Minister Trudeau, my advice is, Mr. President, think it through. Now, about the tariffs on China, don't delude yourself into thinking that China is some sort of economic powerhouse that could easily handle these tariffs.
I know that China is doing very poorly right now. I just saw some reports coming out, and I don't want that to happen to China. I like the president a lot, President Xi. I don't want it to happen. I was actually saddened to hear it, but they are getting absolutely hammered in China. But their factories are closing all over China because we're not taking their product. We don't want their product unless they're going to be fair with us.
And really what Trump has done is he's now challenged China at the worst possible time for Xi Jinping. First of all, the Chinese economy isn't growing at the 5.0% pace that they reported for last year. It may not even be growing at all, Larry. But the point is, it's now having its 2008 downturn. Because in 2008, the Chinese did not want to have a recession. They overstimulated their economy. Now they got to pay back debt. Trump is now imposing tariffs because of China's predatory trade policies. China has no good options right now.
What's taken so long, Gordon, for an American president to stand up to China?
Because President Trump hasn't been president before. You know, in 2018, he started the process with his Section 301 tariffs. He didn't get reelected, so he did not have the time to continue this, the opportunity to continue this. But, you know, previous presidents, they did not want to take on tough issues. They wanted to just get along with Beijing. I think previous presidents, both Republicans and Democrats, were wrong about that. Trump is the first guy who said, I worry about the American worker who's been put out of work. And you go through the South or you go through the Rust Belt in Michigan and you see communities that have been devastated by the loss of factories. You see the loss of hope. You see the fentanyl. You see the death. Trump said, I'm not going to let that continue. And by God, even if Trump's policies weren't successful, and I think that they will be, but the point is he really feels for the average American. And God thank Trump for doing that.
Well, look, I will bet you a soda and a nice hat that Chinese economy is not growing at more than 2%. Now, they say 5%, but they lie like they breathe. But we're going to have to wait them out. It's going to be painful for us, but it's going to be even more painful for them. And I'll say it again, their economy is weak as rainwater. Our economy is in much better shape than theirs is.
Now, the more you know about Kilmar Abrego Garcia, the more bizarre Democrats look for trying to defend him. Is he or is he not an MS-13 gang member?
There's a lot of evidence to support the claim that Kilmar Abrego Garcia is or was at some point a member of MS-13, especially according to this administration. President Trump held up this image of tattoos on his knuckles, saying together they represent MS-13. Some say this photo is digitally altered, but when you look at the photo of him shaking hands with Senator Chris Van Hollen, this was just the other day, those tattoos still remain on his left hand. This is when they met there just outside of that Salvadoran prison. But you can see the photos here. This is with his wife that posted on social media. Imagine this. It appears as though she deliberately covered up those tattoos with heart emojis around his knuckles. So we're going to bring in Errol Toulon Jr., the sheriff in Suffolk County on Long Island. He recently traveled to El Salvador to see firsthand. I wanted to ask, with your expertise and your knowledge, obviously, with MS-13, with gang members, this is exactly what I wanted to see. So here's President Trump holding up what is alleged to be Kilmar Abrego Garcia's knuckle. Now, it is written MS-13 across the top of the knuckle, but what it's denoting is the marijuana plant. It stands for M. The smile is S. The 1 is the cross, and then the 3 is denoted by the 2 eyes on the skull and the nose. In your experience, is that an MS-13 tattoo? Is it not? Can you weigh in?
Yes, I would have to agree. And also, I would doubt that the President of the United States would hold up a picture that was an inaccurate depiction of MS-13. From my experience, that would be someone considered as an MS-13 member if they were entering my jail.
Since all of a sudden, white suburban liberals who were silver spoon their entire life know everything about gang culture. Now, as an ex-gang member myself who did 15 years in the California prison system, I think I'm pretty qualified to speak on Mr. Abrego Garcia's tattoos and what they mean. At one time, not too long ago in the state of California, when you are an affiliated gang member and you are validated through a point system, you get an indeterminate shoe. An indeterminate shoe means that every time that you go into the prison system, you will do the entirety of your time in solitary confinement. You will be locked down for 23 and a half hours a day. No programming. In order to not get that validation point, us gang members would strategically put our ink on so that when we get on the inside, they would not be able to tell where we're from. Of course, this only works for a while because eventually the ISU, which is the police inside of the prison system, they eventually will figure it out. Example, gang members from San Diego will have a 1904 tattooed on them. 19 being the 19th letter of the alphabet, which is S. 04 being the 4th letter of the alphabet, which is D. Same with Orange County would be 1503. OC. Everybody from Orange County has a star right here on the back of their elbow, which symbolizes the top of a star from an orange, which tells you that they're from Orange County. MS gang members or Southsiders are from Southern California originally, which at one point, so was I. So I've walked the line with hundreds of them. I've had cellies that were from MS. Also, MS has a lot of sleeper cells throughout the United States that sit there in disguise, waiting to be activated, waiting to be called on. And those ones will disguise their tattoos as hard as they can so they're not recognized. Let's say like Abrego Garcia, maybe. Eventually, law enforcement is able to detect these tattoos and decipher them, but sometimes it takes quite a long time. But the way that Abrego Garcia's tattoos are on his hand in a certain sequence, and that sequence adds up to MS-13. So to all you liberals out there that are wolfing that you know anything about gang culture and how it works, you need to just sit back and shut your mouth because you haven't lived it, you don't know it, you don't understand it. Good talk.
And then there is this body cam footage of the 2022 traffic stop by the Tennessee Highway Patrol of Mr. Garcia and 8 other illegal aliens in the car.
Houston, Texas, he's running from Houston, Texas to District of Columbia.
All the carpet and everything can pulled out of the back.
He's all of those people. He's picking them up down there in. He's picking them up down there in Texas, taking them up there up to Washington D.C. He was just in Houston the other day.
There's another one northbound with Missouri tags.
He's hauling people. He's got 8 or 9 in there now, or 9 or 10. He's getting paid to haul him. This is what he's doing, but he's on something.
But wait, there's more. And we're learning more about the petitions filed by Abrego Garcia's wife because she was in fear of her life and endured several beatings over an extended period of time.
He grabbed me from my hair and then he slapped me, and then the neighbor, he didn't know what to do. He didn't know what to react. I have pictures of the evidence, all the bruises, because even on Wednesday, he hit me around 3 in the morning. He would just wake up and hit me. And then last Saturday for my daughter's birthday party, before I went to my daughter's birthday party, he slapped me 3 times, and then last week I did call the police. My sister called the police because he hit me in front of my sister.
Is he a member of the MS-13 gang or any other gang?
No, he's not.
And I know this is a sensitive question, but I have to ask it. You did take out a temporary order of protection against your husband in 2021. Were you in fear of your husband?
My husband is alive. That's all I can say.
Okay, and I'm not going to push on that, apparently.
Cutting American consumers.
And then one on Abrego Garcia, please. The administration is reportedly inquiring about his return. Is that to check a box for compliance, or does President Trump want him back on U.S. soil, or both?
So, as Secretary Rubio said yesterday in the cabinet meeting, this administration is not going to publicly discuss the inside details of our foreign policy and negotiations with a foreign country. And in particular, we are not going to allow a district court judge to try to become the Secretary of State. Secretary Rubio is the one who, under his leadership and direction at the State Department, is managing the day-to-day relationship with El Salvador. Let's just take a moment, number one, to express our gratitude to El Salvador for agreeing to take some of the most dangerous terrorists off of America's streets and to put them into a safe environment where they cannot continue to engage in acts of terrorism or coordination with the Maduro regime. You may have seen recently an FBI assessment that was unclassified that said that the Maduro regime is using and planning to use Trinidad terrorists to carry out assassination plots on American soil. Now, very few in this room covered that. I'll let you all ask yourselves why you didn't cover it and why your editors didn't assign that story to you. Something I think you should think about on your own. But this is a earth-shattering piece of news. The Biden administration imported the terrorist army that our own FBI assesses is planning assassination strikes on American soil against critics of the Maduro regime. Those are the terrorists that President Trump is finding and apprehending that our Democrat judges and Democrat activists are trying to keep on U.S. soil. Trinidad has the same legal status as Al-Qaeda and ISIS. MS-13 has the same legal status as Al-Qaeda and ISIS. These are foreign terrorists operating on our soil. And our gratitude to El Salvador for agreeing to take custody of these terrorists is immense. With respect to the case that you mentioned, there's now even been more evidence that has been made public of this person's violent, repeated threats and assaults against his spouse, someone who had repeated, documented human trafficking and human smuggling offenses. Somebody that has extensively documented membership in MS-13, a terrorist organization, and of course he had MS-13 tattooed on his knuckles. This is a person that was a clear and present danger to the safety of the American people. And it is a sad reflection on the state of our media and many of the outlets represented in this room that you obsessively try to shill for this MS-13 terrorist. Well, no coverage occurred in your papers about any of the Americans that were raped and tortured and murdered by the illegals that Biden was importing into our country. You know, you talk about due process. The Biden administration made the decision to give extensive due process to 2 trained Nicaragua terrorists that were apprehended at the border just a couple years ago. They were 2 gentlemen. They were from Venezuela. They were members of Trained Nicaragua. The Biden administration Border Patrol apprehended them and made the decision to provide them with extensive due process, put them onto a program known as supervised release, and put them on ankle monitors so that they could go through a lengthy legal, judicial determination as to whether these legal aliens who had just set foot on U.S. soil might want to live in the United States for the rest of their lives. What was the result of that decision? What was the result of that choice that was made? Those 2 men kidnapped a young girl named Jocelyn Ungary from her family. They beat her, they sexually assaulted her, they tortured her, they stripped her, they murdered her, and they dumped her body. That is what the Biden administration's policy was. Most of your papers never covered her story when it happened. To the extent that you covered it at all, it was because President Trump forced you to cover it by highlighting it repeatedly over and over again. He had to shame you into covering it. And each and every one of you that sides over and over again with these MS-13 terrorists, to the extent that you have the financial means to do so, you all choose to live in condos or homes or houses as far away from these kinds of gangbangers as you possibly can. If I offered any one of you a rent-free home with no taxes to pay in any of these gang neighborhoods, and I said your neighbors are MS-13 terrorists or Mexican mafia or Sinaloa cartel or Trained Nicaragua, I couldn't pay you to live there. But yet you, with your coverage, are trying to force innocent Americans to have these people as their neighbors, and that one day their daughter may be abducted from their home and raped and murdered. So you're not going to get an ounce of sympathy from this administration or President Trump for the terrorists who've invaded our homes and our country.
Now, again, I've known Stephen Miller since he was a teenager at Santa Monica High School, and he invited me to speak at his school.
Go ahead. Well, I have a lot of people that want the job, I can tell you. It's, I mean, a lot of people say it really works in with what Marco's doing. But we have a lot of people. I'm going to be naming somebody, but we'll make it. I would say within 6 months. He would do the job permanently, but I think it's, you know, it's an appropriate job. Stephen Miller's at the top of the totem pole. I mean, I think he sort of indirectly already has that job. You understand? Because he has a lot to say about a lot of things. He's a very valued person in the administration, Stephen Miller.
Hey, Eldorados, you know I just had my birthday a few days ago, and I just turned, but honestly, I feel more like 43. The other day I was asked, yo, Eldursky, how do you stay so sharp? I said something about feeling young again, and then it hit me. I really do feel younger, and I'll tell you why. It's this stuff right here. It's called Immun'Âge. It's a 100% natural, anti-aging Japanese supplement made 100% of fermented papaya. I've been using it daily for the past few months, and I've noticed a real difference. My immunity is stronger. Energy's up. Even my skin is looking younger. Now, just pour this packet under your tongue. It's a powder. Let it dissolve. That's it. Tastes great. No pills to swallow. No hassle. If you want to look and feel younger and give your body something it'll thank you for, go to Immun'Âge.com. That's IMMUNAGE.com and use my code Larry at checkout. Immun'Âge, not too hard to pronounce, Immun'Âge.com, code Larry at checkout for 10% off. Please welcome to the program the CEO of Freedom Chat, Tanner Haas. My question, Tanner, is assume that instead of using Signal, they had been using Freedom Chat. Would what happened have happened?
Well, I think there's a few reasons to suggest that it is likely that it would not have happened. Somebody was inadvertently added to a group chat, not with his phone number, but with the username. If I had two friends, one is named Larry Elder, the other same initials, LE, I accidentally added the wrong individual. That is really what happened. So let's make the phone number. That should be a verification right there. Number two is in a top secret group chat. You should have an approval process. So if you and I are in a group chat, Larry, with a few other people, and I want to add somebody to that group chat, then everybody in the group chat should have to approve that individual that I'm attempting to add. And until that approval process takes place, he should not, or she should not successfully be added to the group chat. It looks like he took a screenshot of the chat. Doesn't look like he took it with another phone. Freedom Chat prevents screenshots and screen recordings entirely. And as you know, if you try to take a screenshot within Freedom Chat, all you'll get is a blank white screen. And we prevent media from being saved as well. What's occurred on Signal, Telegram, WhatsApp is they allow one account to be on multiple devices. That to me opens up the door for security vulnerabilities, phishing, hacking, abuse. So that means that your phone number, Larry, you can log in on your iPhone, your Android, your iPad, iPhone number 2, and the more devices you have out there, the greater likelihood that something's going to happen. With Freedom Chat, we do not allow that, or we put a priority over privacy and security compared to convenience. So your phone number can only be linked to one device. If somebody tried to log in on another device with your phone number, the messages wouldn't even decrypt. It would say send a message, but decryption failed.
Don't watch from the sidelines. Invest in freedom, invest in your privacy, and be a part of history.
Speak freely and message privately with Freedom Chat.
Download the app today. Former First Lady Michelle Obama says she's in therapy and is transitioning to a new phase in life, I assume.
And at this phase of my life, I'm in therapy right now because I'm transitioning. You know, I'm 60 years old. I've finished a really hard thing in my life with my family intact. I'm an empty nester. My girls are in, you know, they've been launched. And now for the first time, as I've said before, every choice that I'm making is completely mine. I now don't have the excuse of, well, my kids need this or my husband needs that or the country needs that. So how do I think about this next phase? And let me get some help. Let me unwind some old habits. Let me sort through some old guilt that I've been carrying around. Let me talk about how my relationship with my mother has affected how I think about things. So I'm getting that tune up for this next phase because I believe this is a whole nother phase in life for me. And I now have the wisdom to know, let me go get some coaching while I'm doing it so that I've got other voices other than the people who know me best. I've got a new person that's getting to know me and seeing me completely new and hearing all these emotions. I am an advocate of it. Everybody needs to find their form of it the best way they can.
And she says living in the White House isn't as glamorous as it seems. After all, the Obamas had to pay for their own food and travel.
Many people don't know. I mean, much is not covered. You're paying for every food, every bit of food that you eat. You're not paying for housing and the staff in it, but everything, even travel. If you're not traveling with the president, if your kids are coming on a Bright Star, which is the First Lady's plane, we had to pay for their travel.
Where do you start? The president earns $500,000 a year. The Obamas entered the White House with a net worth of a little less than $2 million. Their net worth is now estimated between $200 and $300 million. Mansions in Hawaii, D.C., and Martha's Vineyard, although that one is up for sale for $39 million. And Michelle complained about America. You remember that?
I don't think we've seen that. But what we've learned over this year is that hope is making a comeback. It is making a comeback, and Let me tell you something. For the first time in my adult lifetime, I'm really proud of my country. And not just because Barack has done well, but because I think people are hungry for change. And I have been desperate to see our country moving in that direction and just not feeling so alone in my frustration and disappointment. I've seen people who are hungry to be unified around some basic common issues, and it's made me proud. And I feel privileged to be a part of even witnessing this, traveling around states all over this country and being reminded that there is more that unites us than divides us, that the struggles of a farmer in Iowa are no different than what's happening on the south side of Chicago, that people are feeling the same pain and wanting the same things for their families.
She even said her high school counselor advised her not to bother applying to Princeton because she wouldn't get in. But she got in. And then wrote a thesis about how oppressed she felt at Princeton. She complained constantly about being in the fishbowl, her word, of the White House, complained about the supposedly unfair media coverage she and her husband got, and near the end of Obama's second term, Michelle said she could hardly wait to leave the White House. As far as not attending Jimmy Carter's funeral and Donald Trump's inauguration, well, she needed some me time.
My decision to skip the inauguration, you know, what people don't realize, or my decision to make choices at the beginning of this year that suited me were met with such ridicule and criticism. Like, people couldn't believe that I was saying no for any other reason, that they had to assume that my marriage was falling apart.
Right.
You know, it's like, while I'm here really trying to own my life and intentionally practice making the choice that was right for me, and it took everything in my power to not do the thing that was right, or that was perceived as right, but do the thing that was right for me. That was a hard thing for me to do. I had to basically trick myself out of it. And it started with not having anything to wear. I mean, I had affirmatively, because I'm always prepared for any funeral, anything. I walk around with the right dress. I travel with clothes just in case something pops off. So I was like, if I'm not going to do this thing, I got to tell my team, I don't even want to have a dress ready. Right? Because it's so easy to just say, let me do the right thing.
So she told her team not to prepare a dress for her? Who has a team? She reportedly did not want Obama to go into politics in the first place. When he ran for the House of Representatives, she tried to talk him out of doing that, and apparently did not want him to run for Senate, and she had to be talked into him running for president. To say she was a reluctant, if unhappy, political wife would be an understatement. She once even admitted that for 10 years she, quote, couldn't stand, close quote, Barack Obama.
You know, and for 10 years, while we're trying to build our careers and, you know, worrying about school and who's doing what and what, you know, I was like, oh, this isn't even. People think I'm being catty by saying this. It's like there were 10 years when I couldn't stand my husband.
She couldn't stand Barack Obama for 10 years? Well, we had 8 years of Michelle Obama, and somehow we were able to handle it.
I mean, come on.
And she says Trump's plan for mass deportation keeps her up at night.
This current climate for me, it's, you know, what's happening to immigrants. That frightens me. It keeps me up at night, knowing that there's so much bias and so much racism and so much ignorance. I worry for people of color all over this country.
I wonder how she slept at night when Democrats called her husband deporter in chief.
One of these presidents expanded the Secure Communities program for deporting immigrants who are booked into local jails from 31 jurisdictions in this nation to over 3,000. And who was that? Yes, President Barack Obama, another dubious star. Question number 3, let's go to boots on the ground, where the immigration issue seems to begin and end for many Republicans. Who spent more money on immigration enforcement than all other federal law enforcement combined? Well, if you guessed Barack Obama, you'd be right. Yes, the $18 billion he spends is $3.5 billion more every year than we spend on the FBI, ATF, DEA, Secret Service, all of them combined, in order to achieve what? Unprecedented deportations. Another star. Question 4, what crimes are the most prosecuted crimes in federal court? You think kidnapping, murder, counterfeiting, political corruption? No. Under Barack Obama, the #1 crime prosecuted as a misdemeanor is being illegally in this country, and the #1 crime prosecuted as a felony in federal courts is what? Illegal re-entry to the United States. Another star. Finally, for question 5, we get to detention. Which of these presidents put more than 420,000 people in detention in just one single year of his presidency? Yes, arrested and put them in jail. President Barack Obama has detained more immigrants in jails, prisons, and detention facilities than any other president of the United States of America. That's 5 for 5. And it goes to the Porter-in-Chief, Barack Obama.
Back to Michelle. Do not call her angry, although she admitted that she is angrier than her friends.
We grew up with women who weren't voicing the pain and the burden. They made it look easy. And when you make stuff look easy, people assume that you must like this.
Yeah.
It's okay with you, right?
Right.
You know, we don't articulate as Black women our pain because it's almost like nobody ever gave us permission to do that.
And does anyone care?
Yeah, there's
Will
that.
they care?
If we knew, I think we would care. If we knew. If we knew.
Or, you know, yeah, and we have to ask ourselves, the men in our lives is, you know, why wait to be asked? You know, it seems like what we go through is pretty obvious. I mean, maybe we're not complaining, but we're actually living life out loud, you know? You know, you see us carrying these babies, you see us working a job and coming home and managing, getting food on the table and handling doctor's appointments. And this is, you know, if you've got a partner, right? I think some of us feel like, why should we have to ask?
Yeah.
You know, it seems apparent. And as Black women, sometimes we, you know, there is that underlying thing we're socialized to believe from very early on that we don't deserve any better. Well, I think that's why it's important for us at tables like this, for women like us who do have a platform to talk openly about the challenges that we face, not because we are complaining, which we don't want to ever be complaining, but because we need to change, we need to turn that cycle on its head.
Yes.
And we have to talk about our stresses openly, you know. And also, as Black women, we are so easily labeled as angry and bitter. And let me tell you some of the most hurtful stuff that I experienced, you know, entering this life of public service at the heights that we entered into was during my husband's presidential campaign. And just me telling the truth of who we were, you know, just humanizing him as a man, saying he's, you know, he's a great man, but he's not perfect. You know, he's got his foibles and his flaws, trying to humanize him. The first thing that some female journalist said was that I was bitter. I was emasculating him just by sort of trying to tell the truth about what life is, right? And then you get labeled as angry, you know, because you talk forcefully or passionately about something, even if it's in the context of great joy and pride. That the first label they put on us as Black women is that we are angry. And you know, the irony is like, yeah, I am probably less liked than many of my white female friends. I see that.
Less
liked.
Not
you know?
liked.
Light. L-I-G-H-T. Because I say this a lot. I mean, I see the difference in some of my white female friends. I see a lightness, an ability to be in the world and see what's going on, but still be not as burdened about it as I think I am. You know, I think that what I see happen in the news, you know, the assault on immigration rights, the challenges that face our community, the inequality, I think it burns at me in a different way.
Because it affects you.
Yeah.
It affects your children.
Yeah.
It affects you.
Yeah. So imagine, you know, we wake up every day just carrying that.
Yeah.
You know, even if it doesn't directly affect me, sometimes I just have to stop reading the paper.
Yes.
So that I can stop thinking about all that's wrong. Sometimes, I don't know about you, Taraji, I can't stop thinking about it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Who you calling angry?
You talking to me? You talking to me? You talking to me? Well, who the hell else are you talking? You talking to me? Well, I'm the only one here.
Still, the Obamas have been married over 30 years and counting. We wish them well. As to Trump's approval ratings, well, it depends on the poll.
How about on the economy, where Donald Trump's numbers have been struggling a little bit, but even there, Republicans hold a 9-point lead. If Democrats think that at this particular point, just because Donald Trump is unpopular, that they're going to run away with it like a Heisman Trophy winner, that is not necessarily the case. These numbers should be a major wake-up call for Democrats.
Yeah, Real Clear Politics had us in the top 3 in the last 3 cycles that Trump was in. And Active Vote just ranked pollsters, and we're number 2 and 3 or 4 or something like that. We're at the top because they judge just based on error rate. And I want to make a note about this. Our poll that we have right now has Trump up 46-44, but there's a big but to that. 10% are undecided. And Robert Cahaly and I both know when we see undecided, and you've had a string of polls showing that he was down, that means that undecided is probably going to distribute probably 70%, 80% to Trump. We just don't force people to have to choose, and that's the difference. He is definitely on the right.
Rutrow, more bad news for Trump haters.
Listen, the NASDAQ, the S&P 500, the Dow Jones, all up today. They've recovered everything that they lost since Liberation Day. Things are actually going really, really well. This whole thing about GM, the CEO saying that they're going to be, there's going to be a $5 billion cost to the tariffs. But she also said something very important. She said this will not be passed on to the consumer. So where is it going to come from, you might wonder? Well, they brought down their projections. Not all of it will be passed. No, she said none of it will be passed on to the consumer, that this will come out of the profits. They projected 14 billion profits. They're taking that projection down to 10 billion. This is what we want.
Okay, but wait.
This is what we want.
Okay.
We want tariffs.
So we
want manufacturing. We want the billionaires to pay their fair share, and we want the cost not to be passed on to the consumers. And that's what we're seeing. Such a great example.
Hold on. Let me just try to understand this. So GM's profits will decrease probably significantly as a result of this. Let's take that.
I'm telling you what they said.
I know. I'm just saying. Okay, let's take that to the next. What do you think is going to happen when GM's profits suddenly drop? What will happen to GM and the people that work there?
The CEO herself, Mary Barra, thanked President Trump for this because she is a patriot and she understands that the situation we're in with China is not sustainable.
Shareholders would like to have a word.
We sold out our future to China. Somebody had to do something about that.
Shareholders would like to have a
The
word.
corporation's going to take less money. They're going to eat the profits out of the sense of
It's so great
patriotism.
to hear Democrats suddenly being so, pro-corporation.
Yeah, Omar, we were bracing for a slowdown in the jobs market. We did not get that. We got steady hiring. This jobs market is just relentless. Let me run you through the key numbers. Yeah, let's do it. 177,000 jobs were added in the month of April. That easily beat forecasts for 135,000. So not even close to...
Now, remember when Biden came out of the witness protection program and gave his first major speech since the 2024 election? He said Trump wants to, quote, cut and gut Social Security.
We also faced a constant threat by some members, Republican members of the Congress, to cut and gut Social Security, period. Cut and gut it, period.
Well, this is Senator Joe Biden, 1994, admitting that when Democrats accuse Republicans of wanting to cut and gut Social Security, it's a lie. He called it basically a cheap attack line, but it's a lie, said Senator Joe Biden.
Social Security is automatically the public all through the 30s and 40s, because during the 30s and 40s, the Republicans opposed it. It was easy to make the public believe when you'd stand there in 1975 and say, you know, if you elect that Republican, you're going to lose your Social Security. And some Democrats said that. And some of the Republicans they pointed to were as committed to Social Security as any Democrat was. But because the Republican Party historically had been against Social Security, it was an easy hit. It was a cheap shot. And it had some resonance out there.
We also faced a constant threat by some members, Republican members of the Congress, to cut and gut Social Security, period. Cut and gut it, period.
It was a cheap shot.
Were you lying then? Are you lying now? Or are you not, in fact, a chronic and habitual liar?
I have a lot of choices about who I work with in the precious metals industry, and so do you. I really love the fact that for over 45 years, AmFed Coin and Bullion has been serving buyers and sellers of coins and precious metals. AmFed has earned a reputation for providing helpful information, transparency, and fair pricing. Nick Grovich is especially hands-on. He believes that educated consumers make strong investors. Nick is upfront and transparent about AmFed's commission structure. Their typical markup, only 3 to 7% compared to many dealers that may charge as high as 35% or even more. That is a remarkable difference. When you are choosing to invest in gold, it's important to be wise in whom you choose to execute that investment. Call AmFed Coin and Bullion today, 1-800-221-7694, or go to AmericanFederal.com. If you're in the Phoenix area, make an appointment to visit them in person as I did. You will be impressed. That's 1-800-221-7694, or go to AmericanFederal.com. Do you think EVs are better for the planet than gas-powered cars?
I think so. Yes.
Probably not.
Yes.
No. Yes, I think so. I don't think so. I mean, it's hard to say.
Yeah, electric is probably the best way to go.
When I first began hearing this business about net zero emission, I felt conflicted.
We will eliminate in the state of California the sales of internal combustion engines.
And most countries in the world have already signed up for it. I love my gasoline-powered cars. I don't want the planet to be damaged, so I just don't know what to believe. Is it really true that electric vehicles are better for the planet than gasoline-powered vehicles?
So without more mechanical parts moving in the vehicle, it's instantaneous. Torque is instantaneous.
The batteries are lasting very long.
Charge them at your house using solar is amazing.
That's it? Wow. I needed to get my hands on one of those cars.
What is your opinion of electric vehicles?
Oh boy, sorry. I'm not real fond of electric vehicles. They're good for around town. If you long distance, they create anxiety. Had one fire, sitting in the parking lot, just burst into flames. And then you're having a problem with the battery. What do you do with these batteries when they go bad?
When I think about visiting Ogbog Bloshi, it brought me to tears.
This metal to the lithium-ion batteries demand skyrocket in the past decade.
It's hard to get one mine permitted in the United States, which means we're going to be relying on those people who control those minerals, and that's China.
And I'm not willing to financially support that humanity atrocity.
An electric vehicle is a computer with 4 wheels and some seats.
The components of these electric vehicles are made in China, so there could be tracking mechanisms put into Americans' cars.
And I believe that the United States needs to stand up against that.
And my father always told my brothers and me the following: hard work wins. You cannot control the outcome, but you are 100% in control of the effort. And before you moan and groan, ask yourself, what could I have done to change the outcome? My one question, my big overriding question would be real simple. Are EVs better for the planet than gasoline-powered vehicles? President Trump has announced his intention to stop taxpayer money from going to hyper-left NPR and hyper-left PBS, some $500 million each year per hyper outlet. This is no wonder after the classy beatdown Texas lawmaker Brandon Gill put on NPR CEO Catherine Maurer.
Do you believe that America is addicted to white supremacy?
I believe that I tweeted that, and as I've said earlier, I believe much of my thinking has evolved over the last half decade.
It has evolved. Why did you tweet that?
I don't recall the exact context, sir, so I wouldn't be able to say.
Okay. Do you believe that America believes in black plunder and white democracy?
I don't believe that, sir.
You tweeted that in reference to a book you were reading at the time, apparently, The Case for Reparations.
I don't think I've ever read that book, sir.
You tweeted about it. You said you took a day off to fully read The Case for Reparations. You put that on Twitter in January of 2020.
Apologies, I don't recall that I did.
Okay.
I'd no doubt that your tweet there is correct, but I don't recall that.
Okay. Do you believe that white people inherently feel superior to other races?
I do not.
You don't? You tweeted something to that effect. You said, I grew up feeling superior. How white of me. Why did you tweet that?
I think I was probably reflecting on what it was to grow up in an environment where I had lots of advantages.
It sounds like you're saying that white people feel superior.
I don't believe that anybody feels that way, sir. I was just reflecting on my own experiences.
Do you think that white people should pay reparations?
I've never said that, sir.
Yes, you did. You said it in January of 2020. You tweeted, yes, the North, yes, all of us, yes, America, yes, our original collective sin and unpaid debt, yes, reparations, yes, on this day.
I don't believe that was a reference to fiscal reparations, sir.
What kind of reparations was it a reference to?
I think it was just a reference to the idea that we all owe much to the people who came before us.
That's a bizarre way to frame what you tweeted. Okay, how much reparations have you personally paid?
Sir, I don't believe that I've ever paid reparations.
Okay, it's just for everybody else.
I'm not asking anyone to pay reparations.
Seems to be what you're suggesting. Do you believe that looting is morally wrong?
I believe that looting is illegal, and I refer to it as counterproductive. I think it should be prosecuted.
Do you believe it's morally wrong, though?
Of course.
Of course. Then why did you refer to it as counterproductive? It's a very different way to describe it.
It is both morally wrong and counterproductive, as well as being illegal.
You tweeted, it's hard to be mad about protests in reference to the BLM protests, not prioritizing the private property of a system of oppression. You didn't condemn the looting. You said that it was counterproductive. NPR also promoted a book called In Defense of Looting. Do you think that that's an appropriate use of taxpayer dollars?
I'm unfamiliar with that book, sir, and I don't believe that was at my time at NPR.
You tweeted that you read that book, but...
I don't believe that I did read that.
Down goes Frazier! Down goes Frazier! Down goes Frazier!
Now, I recently spent some time discussing a black man who was killed by a white police officer. I noted that it is rare for the police to kill anybody, let alone a black person, let alone an unarmed black person. And I suggested that maybe, just maybe, we ought to wait for the facts before deciding that the officer acted improperly and that he did so because of the suspect's race. So I got this call from a dissatisfied customer.
Yes, this is Wesley Randall, and I'm trying to figure out how are you allowed to be on TV all day and just targeting black people? This is very ignorant, and I'm talking about very it's deceptive too. You up here, you give these fake FBI numbers when the FBI themselves said that they don't even collect data from illegals in a lot of these cities. So you're talking about these 20,000 murders and 50% was black. That's a lie. Even on their website, they tell you that the data is collected from towns that cooperate with that. So that means that every town don't even cooperate. They can even control the numbers by cutting off the surveys after they get enough towns. But I don't know what's wrong with you and your self-hate. I don't know if it's self-hate. But everybody don't fit these little ignorant categories you're always trying to put black people in.
A lot of people, like my angry black caller friend, just do not want to hear the truth. Consider the experience of Harvard economist Roland Fryer when his research showed him that the police were more hesitant, more reluctant to pull the trigger on a black suspect than a white suspect.
I collected a lot of data. We collected millions of observations on everyday use of force that wasn't lethal. We collected thousands of observations on lethal force. And it was in this moment in 2016 that I realized people lose their minds when they don't like the result. And so what my paper showed, you'll see tomorrow, like some of you, was that, yes, we saw some bias in the low-level uses of force, every day pushing up against cars and things like that. People seem to like that result. But we didn't find any racial bias in police shootings. Now, that was really surprising to me because I expected to see it. The little-known fact is I had 8 full-time RAs that it took to do this over nearly a year. When I found this surprising result, I hired 8 fresh ones and redid it to make sure. They came up with the same exact answer, and I thought it was robust. And then I went to go give it, and my God, all hell broke loose. It was a 104-page, dense academic economics paper with a 150-page appendix, okay? It was posted for 4 minutes when I got my first email. This is full of shit. Doesn't make any sense. And I wrote back, how'd you read it that fast? That's amazing. You are a genius. And I had colleagues take me to the side and say, don't publish this. You'll ruin your career. I said, what are you talking about? I said, what's wrong with it? Do you believe the first part? Yes. Do you believe the second part? Well, the issue is they just don't fit together. We like the first one, but you should publish the second one another time. I said, let me ask this. If the second part about the police shootings, this is a literal conversation. I said to them, if the second part showed bias, do you think I should publish it then? And they said, yeah, then it would make sense. And I said, I guarantee you I'll publish it. We'll see what happens. So it was you know, I lived under police protection for about 30 or 40 days. I had a 7-day-old daughter at the time. I remember going and shopping for it because, you know, when you have a newborn, you think you have enough diapers, you don't. So I was going to the grocery store to get diapers with an armed guard. It was crazy. It was really, truly crazy.
By the way, while we're on the topic, are you aware of the black Birmingham, Alabama man who allegedly murdered 14 people in 14 months, all of whom are black? No? That's because it did not make national news. Black on black crime, no matter how many, yawn, just not a national story, even when it's a black man responsible for allegedly killing 14 other blacks.
It's been 19 months since 2 Birmingham firefighters were shot at Fire Station 9 in Norwood.
Interim Birmingham Police Chief Michael Pickett announced today the arrest of 22-year-old Damian McDaniel in that shooting. McDaniel's been charged with capital murder and the death of Jordan Melton and attempted murder in the shooting of Jamal Jones. McDaniel has already been charged in 2 mass shootings, and now police say he's charged in additional homicides. The death of Mia Nixon in January of 2024 and the murder for hire death of a UPS worker, Anthony Love Jr., on April 9th.
Shedeur Sanders, the quarterback son of Deion Sanders, was projected by many to be the #1 pick in the NFL draft.
Raiders slide up to get the #1 pick.
Do they have to slide?
Well, they're at #2 right now.
Okay, who's one right now?
Giants pick #1.
I know that
#1 pick.
Shedeur's gonna be the #1 pick.
If the Giants the #1 pick, who's the #1 pick, Pop?
Shedeur's gonna be the #1 pick.
Instead,
the 2025 NFL Draft is now officially open. With the first pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Tennessee Titans select Cameron Ward, quarterback, Miami.
We have a trade. The Cleveland Browns have traded the 2nd pick to the Jacksonville Jaguars. And with the 2nd pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Jacksonville Jaguars select Travis Hunter, wide receiver, defensive back
from Colorado.
Oh, I don't know what that is.
Pick
Here's the
in the
commissioner.
2025 NFL Draft, the New York Giants select Abdul Carter, defensive end, Penn State.
So the first spot that could have gone to Shedeur Sanders that we expected does go as expected to a dynamic Penn State Nittany Lion, Abdul Carter.
One eternity later.
Sanders ended up as a 5th rounder, the 144th pick. So out came the race card.
But we've never seen a quarterback projected to be a top 20 pick, universally recognized one of the top 3 quarterbacks in the draft, projected to be a first rounder, in all likelihood a safe bet of a late first rounder, and drop literally to the 5th round. We haven't seen anything like that. And when you're talking about the owners, I'm going to keep in mind, and I tweeted about this, seems very Kaepernick-like, as in Colin Kaepernick.
So if it's not football, what is it? Are there racial undertones here, racist undertones? You be the judge. Racism is so hard to sort of grasp and prove, but it just stinks. It smells of racist undertones, of too many white people in charge in this league who just roll their eyes at both father and son at Colorado.
Someone like Shedeur Sanders, because he talk a certain way and because he wears gold chains and his pops is Dion and he don't want to submit to y'all white, he's gonna slip in the draft. And you're telling me it's based on the evaluation. Like, you didn't watch the games and watch him play and see him play.
Sigh. Isn't whipping out the race card in sports getting a little tiresome?
Well, Mook, when you get to the World Series, everything's magnified. And one of the things everybody's talking about across the country, you're the only African-American player in the World Series. So when did you learn that, and what are your thoughts when you think about that?
Learned it just now.
Has race been a factor at all?
Has race been a factor? No. Not in poker. In poker, they only see one color, that's green.
You and Mike Tomlin are 2 of the few black head coaches in the league. I wonder what your relationship is like with them and your thoughts on Steve Wilkes joining that fold.
I have a very good relationship with Tomlin. We don't look at what color we are when we coach against each other. We just know each other. I have a lot of very good white friends that coach in this league as well, and I don't think it's a big deal as far as us coaching against each other. I think it's normal. Wilkes got an opportunity to do a good job. Hopefully he does it. And we coach ball. We don't look at color.
But you also understand that representation matters too, right? And that when young aspiring coaches or even football players, they see you guys, they see someone that looks like them, maybe grew up like them, that has to mean something.
Well, when you say you see you guys and look like them and grow up like them, it means that we're oddballs to begin with. And I think the minute you guys stop making a big deal about it, everybody else will as well.
So the NFL, where some 70% of the players are black, is racist despite the top 3 picks being black? And then there's this business about Sanders refusing to appropriately code speak.
I spent a lot of time. I was up till 1 a.m. last night really mulling over this decision. Why didn't Shedeur get drafted in the first round? Number one, he didn't code switch. What do I mean he didn't code switch? Shedeur Sanders did not change his identity or how he comes off for the sake of the decision maker. The problem is he didn't make himself more palatable to decision makers. He just didn't do it. And in job interviews, whether it's the National Football League or any job interview, oftentimes it behooves you to make yourself more palatable to decision makers. Shedeur Sanders did not do that. That's reason number one. The second reason, his confidence, I believe, it exceeded his perceived ability. That's just real. Y'all ain't gonna like everything I'm saying.
So I guess that means the top 3 picks engaged in code speak so they could be selected, and they were sellouts. Tom Brady was a late round draft pick. Kurt Warner wasn't even drafted. Brady and Warner worked hard to prove the naysayers wrong. My unsolicited advice to Mr. Sanders, work hard, prove the naysayers wrong. And by the way, Mr. Sanders has the #1 selling rookie jersey in the NFL. Not too shabby for the 144th pick. And when did code speak become a thing?
I knew I was on the ticket. I would argue because we did a lot of amazing progressive things in Minnesota that improved people's lives. But I also was on the ticket, quite honestly, because I could code talk to white guys watching football, fixing their truck, doing that I could put them at ease. I was the permission structure to say, look, you can do this and vote for this. And
Oh, you mean like
I have white guy tacos and
what is
like
that?
black,
Like mayonnaise and tuna? What are you doing?
pretty much ground beef and cheese.
That's
and,
okay. Do you put any flavor in it?
No.
Oh.
Here's the deal. No, they said to be careful and let her know this, that black pepper is the top of the spice level in Minnesota,
I'm so sorry. What's your name?
My name's Tim.
Now, there is no love between President Trump and Representative Jasmine Crockett.
We need to make sure that we require that they turn those documents over to us. And if they don't, guess what? We need to show up at their doors and we need to conduct a field hearing right there at FDA. Same thing as it relates to the planes that are falling out of the sky.
Right.
We need some real transparency and we need some honesty and we need to make sure that the American people are just as enraged as we all should be.
Right.
Because this administration is truly trying to kill us, it feels like.
And instead of publicly calling us the N-word, they use racist epithets and suggest that we're ghetto or unqualified or diversity hires, even though we're all more, oftentimes than not, more educated and qualified than they are. I have news for you. These attacks are not new because Jim Crow never died. He just lied in wait. There are going to be people that tell you that you don't belong, and I am here to tell you over and over and over that you absolutely belong. There are people that are going to tell you that there is not a table in which there is a seat for you, but I am here to remind you of Montgomery and those folding chairs. Let me tell you that we know how to use a chair, whether we pulling it up or we doing something else with it. Let me be the first one to tell you that I know that y'all are ready to put your boots on the ground.
I look at the Democrats, they're in total disarray. They have a new person named Crockett. I watched her speak the other day. She's definitely a low IQ person. And they said, she's the future of the party. I said, you have to be kidding. I don't know what they're going to do.
Now get this, Crockett is a Texas member of the U.S. House. And she's black, as was the late, great, articulate, and erudite Texas U.S. House member Barbara Jordan. There seemed, however, to be a decided difference in the style and approach between the two.
A lot of years passed since 1832, and during that time it would have been most unusual for any national political party to ask a Barbara Jordan to deliver a keynote address. But tonight, here I am. And I feel that notwithstanding the past, that my presence here is one additional bit of evidence that the American dream need not forever be deferred.
Most extreme crimes that take place in this country are committed by white supremacists. 80% of extreme crimes are committed by white supremacists in this country.
I could easily spend this time praising the accomplishments of this party and attacking the Republicans, but I don't choose to do that. I could list the many problems which Americans have. I could list the problems which cause people to feel cynical, angry, frustrated. Problems which include lack of integrity in government, the feeling that the individual no longer counts, the reality of material and spiritual poverty, the feeling that the grand American experiment is failing or has failed. I could recite these problems, and then I could sit down and offer no solutions. But I don't choose to do that either. The citizens of America expect more, deserve, and they want more than a recital of problems.
And things like that, and they've said, oh, they taking your black jobs. They taking your black jobs. Not really. They are obviously jobs that they want us to go back to, such as work in the fields, all right?
We are a people in a quandary about the present. We are a people in search of our future. We are a people in search of a national community. We are a people trying not only to solve the problems of the present, unemployment, inflation, but we are attempting on a larger scale to fulfill the promise of America. We are attempting to fulfill our national purpose to create and sustain a society in which all of us are equal.
I think that you punch. I think you punch. I think you're okay with you okay with punching. You know, I think and I love Colin, and I think towards the end he started to punch a little harder. But like, it's Ted Cruz. I mean, like, this dude has to be knocked over the head, like, hard, right? Like, there is no niceties with him. Like, at all. Like, you go clean off on him, right?
Our concept of governing is derived from our view of people. It is a concept deeply rooted in a set of beliefs firmly etched in the national conscience of all of us. Now, what are these beliefs? First, we believe in equality for all and privileges for none.
And then y'all want to come at us and act like people of color are the problem or that women are the problem? Like, baby, you probably need a good black woman in the room who can check you and tell you that, first of all, you shouldn't be doing this.
This is a belief that each American, regardless of background, has equal standing in the public forum, all of us.
I'm not finna play with my money. Like, y'all tripping, because I worked on that case for 7 years.
Yep.
It was against a very small city that literally can't pay it. Now, if for some reason they go find the coins, then absolutely, I'm resigning, forcing a special election, and I'll win, right?
We are an inclusive rather than an exclusive party. Let everybody come.
You tried to rig the game, but you can't fake influence.
This can be accomplished only by providing each citizen with every opportunity to participate in the management of the government. They must have that. We believe.
Congresswoman, will you condone violence at the time?
We believe that the government, which represents the authority of all the people, not just one interest group, but all the people, has an obligation to actively, underscore actively, seek to remove those obstacles which would block individual achievement, obstacles emanating from race, sex, economic condition. The government must remove them, seek to remove them. We are willing to suffer the discomfort of change in order to achieve a better future. We have a positive vision of the future founded on the belief that the gap between the promise and reality of America can one day be finally closed. We believe that.
Listen, he up there, he's hearing all kinds of nonsense and bull. Let me just be real. And we weren't gonna sit for that shit. We wouldn't, you know.
This, my friends, is the bedrock of our concept of governing. This is a part of the reason why Americans have turned to the Democratic Party. These are the foundations upon which a national community can be built.
And all I want to see happen on my birthday is for Elon to be taken down. Yes. I am tired of the white tears. We showed up And if he had some sense, then maybe we would have been about that life. But y'all know he ain't got no sense.
You know why? Because they don't want any more Kamala Harrises. They don't want any more Jasmine Crockett's. But I got news for them. I don't care what they do. We will fight to the end to make sure that we get our due.
Let all understand that these guiding principles cannot be discarded for short-term political gains. They represent what this country is all about. They are indigenous to the American idea, and these are principles which are not negotiable.
Through the back like mustard on a beat, bro, deep boat in the rap. He a freak though, man down, call like Amber Lambs. Tell him breathe, let them boys to the cross, they walk around like G's. What's up?
So you've heard me talk about Patriot Mobile for a while now. You probably already know that for years, they've stood in the gap for every American who believes that faith, family, and freedom are worth fighting for. They are the real deal. But did you know they've got cutting-edge technology too? Switching is easy. No store visits, no hassle. Keep your number, keep your phone, or upgrade. Their 100% US-based team can activate you in minutes right over the phone. And get this, Patriot Mobile is one of the few carriers with access to all 3 major US networks. That means exceptional nationwide coverage, plus they can even put a second number on a different network on one phone. It's like carrying 2 phones in one. They have unlimited data plans, mobile hotspots, international roaming, internet on-the-go devices, and home internet backup. You can't get this from the big guys. So what are you waiting for? Make the switch today and experience the Patriot Mobile difference. Go to patriotmobile.com/Larry or call 972-PATRIOT, and right now use promo code Larry for a free month of service. Switch to Patriot Mobile and defend freedom with every call and text you make. That's patriotmobile.com/Larry or call 972-PATRIOT.
Why isn't your bank asking what's in your heart? When big banks cancel your account because they don't like your politics, or they share your transaction data with the government, it's no wonder they don't ask what's in your heart. That's not what they care about. Old Glory Bank is different. We're the pro-America online bank that protects your privacy, security, and liberty. Started by Dr. Ben Carson, Larry Elder, and John Rich, we proudly serve customers in all 50 states. Open your account in minutes at oldglorybank.com. We stand with you.
MyPillow is excited to announce that they are extending the mega sale on overstock clearance and brand new products. This is your chance to grab incredible deals on some of MyPillow's most popular and newly released items. For example, save $40 on the new spring MyPillow bed sheets available in any size and color. These luxurious sheets are designed for maximum comfort and breathability, perfect for a great night's sleep. Looking for a meaningful gift? Save 30% on the brand new My Crosses, inspired by the one Mike has worn every day for over 20 years. These beautifully crafted crosses come in both men's and women's designs and are proudly made right here in the good old US of A. Get the 6-piece bath or kitchen towel sets for just $39.98. Initial quantities are extremely limited, so do not wait. And don't forget the best-selling standard MyPillow, now just $17.98. Plus, orders over $75 ship free. Go to MyPillow.com and use promo code Larry or call 800-890-1843 to order right now. That's MyPillow.com, promo code Larry, or call 800-890-1843 to order right now. Poor CNN's Van Jones. He really must be a tortured individual. This was his analysis after Trump won in 2016.
People have talked about a miracle. I'm hearing about a nightmare. It's hard to be a parent tonight for a lot of us. You tell your kids, don't be a bully. You tell your kids, don't be a bigot. You tell your kids, do your homework and be prepared. And then you have this outcome, and you have people putting children to bed tonight, and they're afraid of breakfast. They're afraid of, how do I explain this to my children? I have Muslim friends who are texting me tonight saying, should I leave the country? I have families of immigrants that are terrified tonight. This was many things. This was a rebellion against the elites. True, it was a complete reinvention of politics and polls, it's true. But it was also something else. We've talked about race. I mean, we've talked about everything but race tonight. We've talked about income. We've talked about class. We've talked about region. We haven't talked about race. This was a white lash. This was a white lash against a changing country, It was a white-lash against a black president in part.
And this was Mr. Jones after Trump's triumphant comeback in 2024.
How the hell did Donald Trump figure out the mainstream media is the fringe and the fringe is now the mainstream? How the hell did Donald Trump figure out? I mean, Joe Rogan is obvious, right? Like, we knew the guy had a big audience. It's not like we were like stunned, but like, how the hell was he, the 78-year-old guy who doesn't even have a computer and still like writes handwritten notes, how did he become the guy who cracked the code on, to your point, running a cultural, I don't even want to say campaign, running
it was a movement. Look,
heading a cultural movement versus a campaign.
Every one of your people knows Elon. Listen. Yeah, so I mean, everybody keeps, I mean, the problem is you have a framework in your mind that, how can Donald Trump? Guys, can we cut it out? Donald Trump is not an idiot. Donald Trump, let me just be very clear. Donald Trump is smarter than me, you, and all critics. You know why we know? Because he has the White House, the Senate, the House.
Totally agree.
The popular vote. He has a massive media ecosystem bigger than the mainstream built around him and for him, and a religious fervor in a political movement around him. And his best buddy is the richest person in the history of the world, and the most relevant Kennedy is with him. This dude is a phenomenon. He is the most powerful human on earth and in our lifetime, and we're still saying, well, how was this guy? We look like idiots to ordinary.
You're totally right.
And this is Mr. Jones interviewing black voters who voted for Trump in 2024. Do they regret their vote?
You weren't always a Republican.
No. Actually, I come from a family that was like super Democratic. My first time voting, I voted Democrat. I voted for Joe Biden.
What about Trump appealed to you?
Am I allowed to cuss?
Yeah, you can.
I mean, part of it is he's an asshole. I like authenticity.
You voted for Obama then you voted for Hillary Clinton in 2016, but 2020 you voted for Donald Trump. What made the change?
I began listening to someone, her name is Candace Owens, and I read her book, and it just opened my eyes to maybe he's not this person that I have been led to believe that he was.
So you voted against Trump in 2016,
yes,
but then in 2020 you voted for him?
Absolutely.
Why?
I saw how things were going during his first term, and I was pleasantly surprised, and I was pleased with what was happening. I saw the economy getting better. I saw country relations in certain countries getting better.
So Mr. Jones has gone from White-lash to Whiplash. Memo to those trashing Teslas, there are cameras everywhere.
Hey, how you doing? Good. Yeah? You like putting stickers on cars?
I don't know what you're talking about.
You don't? Yeah, I got a video of you. You don't know?
No.
Okay. That's fascinating. I'm curious what your motive is here, because like I get in the car with my kids, there's curse words people are putting on my car.
All right.
I got you on video. Twice.
All right.
Twice.
I don't have anything to say about it.
You should, man. At least defend your position. Like, be a man. Have a debate with me. You don't want to continue the conversation?
No.
But you started the conversation, right?
Okay. Well, I don't have anything to say. I don't have any comment.
Okay. And again, you started it, so I'm just trying to answer your questions. You made a statement, you put something on my car, and now you don't want to discuss it.
Hey, it could have been worse. Finally, Trump's a beast.
도널드 트럼프 뜁니다. 트럼프 직접 가요. 트럼프. 독주하는 트럼프의 관세 정책. 트럼프 슛!
Do we really have to listen to Joe Biden explaining the plot of Star Wars.
Hey, Dad, do an impression of Joe Biden explaining the plot to Star Wars.
So there's a galaxy parked on the side of the a long time ago, back when I was working full time anyway, I was the head of the embassy. It doesn't matter. Far away, there was galaxy, and there were robots. And the robots, they were not the droids you were looking for.
Man's best friend can be racist?
Hey, buddy. Want to play fetch? All right, go get it. Go get it. Don't you want to play fetch? What's that? Go get it like this. And then you... Hey! That's my car! Are you serious?
Come on up, says the comedian to somebody in the audience. Not too much pressure.
Okay. Go for it. You do whatever joke you want to do. What's your name, my good guy? Go for it.
Nice to meet you all. Can't really see anyone here, but it's wicked. All right, so for my son, first of all, a short joke. So, why was the beach wet? Because the seaweed. Thank you. It's for my son. He's 6 years old. I went to. Okay, cool. All right. Job interview. Two guys go for the job interview. An Irish guy and an Indian guy. So the Irish guy goes up first, and the rules of the interview are you've got to use 3 words in a sentence. Be very creative. The words are green, yellow, and pink. So the Irish guy's like, okay. I woke up one morning. I looked outside my house, and that's a green grass. Loved it, fucking loved it. And for the first time in many years, there was some sunshine, yellow sunshine. And I looked a little bit further, and there was a couple of pink pigs. Interviewer was like, fantastic, I love it. You're in it with a good shout. Indian guy is stressing. He's like, oh my God. That was very good, yeah, but I don't know. Interviewer was like, come on, man, you got something. Just try something. He's like, okay. Well, yesterday, my phone rang. It was going green, 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 green. So, I picked up the phone and I said, yellow?
Hope you enjoyed We've Got a Country to Save, brought to you by Immun'Âge and Freedom Chat. Freedom Chat has true end-to-end encryption, no storage of messages on the server, and no commercial use of user data. That way, you can speak freely and message privately. Download the app today and subscribe to my Freedom Chat channel at Larry Elder for exclusive posts and never-before-seen content. We also thank Impactful Pictures, Old Glory Bank, Patriot Mobile, MyPillow, and AmFed Coin and Bullion. Be sure to like and subscribe to our podcast. Make sure to follow or subscribe to my channel on whatever platform you are using, whether X, YouTube, Facebook, or Rumble. Please patronize our sponsors so we can keep bringing you these awesome videos. And remember, we've got a country to save.
I'll lay you 8 to 5 if when that election started, I told you we were going to get any of that done. None of you would have thought it happened. Yeah. Not because negative. I mean, it was anyway. As they say in Southern, we've done pretty good.
Brand new shirt at LarryElderShop.com. The black face of white supremacy, featuring a striking design inspired by the Terminator. This isn't just merch, it's a message. A message to the media, the elites, and the race-baiting left. You can't cancel that which won't quit. Get yours now at LarryElderShop.com and use promo code ELDER25 to save 25%. Wear it proud, stand your ground, and remember, we've got a country to save.